You talked about your family. They targeted not just your dad, but also your wife. And I think a lot of people sitting at home would say, well, that's pretty cynical. I mean, this is someone who attacked your own members of your family. And what we learned from this testimony is that not only did Donald Trump know about it, he coordinated it.
During an incredibly combative interview on CNN, Kaitlan Collins pressed Republican Senator Ted Cruz on his decision to lick Trump's boots despite Trump calling his wife ugly during the 2016 presidential election, and also basically claiming that Ted Cruz's father was a murderer during the same election. And all he did was make up all sorts of excuses and kiss Trump's ass even more. Let's watch.
But I knew then it was lies. It was lies then, it's
but you
lies
didn't know
now.
Donald Trump himself was
Of course I did, I said he did, it was obvious. And at the end of the day, I'm a big boy. And as I said, I could have made a choice. Listen, if I were a private citizen, I could decide my feelings are hurt and I'm just gonna leave. But if I do that, I can't do my job. And I care about my job.
But do you think of the tactics that he used to get
I don't like him, I can't stand him.
Do you think he would have been the nominee had he not done stuff like that?
I don't know. I think Donald Trump is a unique character in American history. There are things he says and does that I like. There are things he says and does that I don't like. I'll tell you what millions of Americans love about him is that he's got backbones and guts, and that he's willing to stand and fight, and that matters.
I love how he's like, you know what the American people love about Trump? That he has backbone and guts, something that I don't have, as he insulted my wife and I turned around and licked his boots anyway. Like, look, I don't know, Cenk, maybe it comes across to some Republican voters as the right thing to do, the selfless thing to do, right? Put your own personal feelings aside and do the right thing for the country and support Trump. But to me, I choose violence if someone goes after my family. I don't know, I feel like that's what family values are. You don't mess with my family, period, okay? There's nothing in politics that I find more important than protecting my family. That's where I stand on the issue, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Look, I watched the whole interview, and you might be surprised to find out that I thought that Ted Cruz did a better job than he normally does. He was slightly less groveling, and he made points that were wrong, but he made them well enough that I think it would have confused some of the audience. Okay, so I mean, so it's kind of a strategic compliment I'm giving him in that sense. But at the end of the day, when he says, I put aside my feelings, which is a good spin on it, right? To do my job because I care so much about my job. Yeah, but Ted, what is your job really? I mean, how many bills have you passed since then? You guys have passed one major piece of legislation, which was under Trump, which was to give corporations and the wealthy an enormous tax cut. The reason he likes his job is because he gets to be famous and powerful and wealthy and do his podcast. And it's not like he's passed so many bills for the American people and it has helped you guys so much. And he gets so much psychic benefit from that he's like, you know what? Okay, it's immoral to support the guy who said my wife was ugly and my dad was a murderer. But at least I've done this wonderfully moral thing of I got higher wages I got paid family leave so you guys can take time off when you have a baby and raise an American family. No, he got you nothing. He got himself everything. So the bottom line of that argument was, yeah, I don't like that he humiliated me and my family, but I do like the money I get and the power and fame and status I have. So I'm willing to put up with it.
Oh, it's so pathetic. Well, look, let's actually pivot to the allegations Trump made about Ted Cruz's father. Now, the hush money trial has been taking place, and through that hush money trial, it was confirmed that the Trump team basically fed certain stories to the National Enquirer. David Pecker was willing to print some of the stories about Ted Cruz's father, which are untrue, I think. Now, one of those stories claimed that Ted Cruz, no, they're untrue. They're untrue. Come on, let's keep it real. Now, one of those stories claimed that Ted Cruz's father had helped in the In the assassination of JFK, Kaitlan Collins made a clearly uncomfortable, basically made Ted Cruz, who was clearly uncomfortable, sit through an old video of himself calling out Trump for pushing that story. Let's take a look.
The CEO of the National Enquirer is an individual named David Pecker. Well, David is good friends with Donald Trump. They have a friendship that goes back for many years. This has no business in politics. This doesn't belong. Years from now, when my daughters Google this, they will read these lies, these attacks that Donald and his henchmen and his buddies at the National Enquirer spread.
Okay. I just love the look on his face as he's forced to watch himself in 2016 criticizing Donald Trump. And when he was asked about how he could support Trump after all of that, Cruz basically excused it, saying that it was a rough and tumble race.
Yeah.
National Enquirer wrote that my father killed JFK. And
he said they mashed two photos together to create.
Yeah, they created a fake photo, and I will say my dad was pretty pissed. And although he laughed about it, but he was still like, what do I do? And I just said, look, Dad, it'll be fine.
Yeah, my dad laughed about it. I mean, he disowned me and wants nothing to do with me after that whole debacle. But you know, he laughed. It was totally fine.
Yeah, Anna, here's what I got out of that clip. This explains the beard. A consultant must have looked at him back in 2016 when he lost and said, "You lost because you look like a boy." And
now you can look like a freak. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit better in that sense. Like you look like Marco Rubio. Come on, grow a beard. But apparently he didn't grow his spine.
Yep, no spine for him. Now, Cruz again went on to say that he, just wanted to get things done, Cenk. He just wanted to get things done. So he decided to suck it up and submit to Donald Trump. In fact, he submitted so hard that he even did this.
Hi, this is Ted Cruz calling. I was calling to encourage you to come out and vote on election day. Just wanted to encourage you to come out and vote. Thank you, and God bless you.
So look, the reason why he tucked tail and ended up sucking up to Trump is because he was able to read the tea leaves. Okay, he saw what was going on with the Republican electorate, and the Republican Party became the party of Trump. And if any Republican member of Congress wants a future as a politician, they have no choice but to tuck tail and suck up to Donald Trump. The question is it worth it? Right, like, is it worth it? So if someone told me, listen, Anna, you wanna run for Congress, and even though you can't stand the corporate Democrats, you have to absolutely get on your hands and knees and grovel to Joe Biden or other congressional Democrats that you can't stand. My decision is no, I prefer not to do that. And if I'm gonna lose, then I'm gonna lose. But to me, what's more valuable is showing the electorate that you have your own personal values, that you have your principles, and you are not willing to waver when it comes to those principles. Like, that is a leader. Like, we need leaders in Congress, and we just don't have that. We have no leaders in Congress. Well, we have a few people who are willing to, like Thomas Massie. I gave him a lot of credit yesterday, Cenk, because he got reelected. He ran for reelection as a congressman serving the 4th District of Kentucky. And AIPAC went after him because he was unwilling to vote in favor of sending more military aid to Israel. He's a libertarian. That's what his principles are. It's not against Israel. He's against sending military aid to Ukraine as well. He doesn't want to fund foreign wars. I disagree with him on a whole host of political issues and policy issues, but he's a man of principle and was willing to deal with the backlash from the Israel lobby over his votes. And I really value that. I think that there's something incredibly admirable about that. The thing is, you don't see much of that in Congress these days. And I think at the very top of the coward category is Ted Cruz, who's unwilling to even protect his own family against vicious lies about them that's uttered by the leader of his own party.
Yeah, so first of all, credit Thomas Massie, who's a right-wing populist. But also credit to all the Justice Democrats. They all know that AIPAC was going to spend a fortune against them, and they all still nevertheless criticized Israel, and they're populists on the left. But everyone in the establishment, their whole point of existence is to take donor money and to serve the donors. So their servants. So of course they all have bowed their heads to AIPAC. But they've also bowed their heads to pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, et cetera, because that's their whole point of existence. And that's the same with Ted Cruz. So look, I'll give you a distinction between Van Jones and Ted Cruz. Now, why am I bringing Van Jones into this? Van Jones is a commentator on CNN, but he actually helped Trump pass criminal justice reform. And he says some nice things about Trump and Jared Kushner along the way. And a lot of people on the left got mad at Van Jones, but he actually got a decent bill passed, and during the Trump administration. Now, Ted Cruz, Trump, et cetera, they never talk about that bill. Trump even said that he regrets getting it passed. That's how you could tell it was good, right? But if you want to take a personal hit like Van Jones did and compliment Trump just to get the bill passed because it's going to help the average American, I get it, brother. And in fact, I think it's kind of a personal sacrifice. And in some ways, I commend him for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think people who are less interested about their personal branding and more interested in working with people toward real solutions in the country, those are good people. Those are the kinds of people we want, making decisions and playing a role in policies that get passed in the country.
Right now, but he didn't grovel. He didn't do any of the outlandish things that Cruz and Nikki Haley and others are going to do and have done. But at least that's a political calculation where you're sacrificing yourself for the benefit of others.
Yes.
Whereas the Ted Cruzes of the world sacrifice their family members for their own benefit.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's all the difference in the world. And that's why we can't stand the standard greasy politicians. And Anna, to your point about whether you can, for example, can you trust us not to do the same thing? Well, Anna, we've passed many tests, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, part of the reason I started Young Turks in the first place was because I just couldn't take unfair, irrational orders from other people. And so when MSNBC basically flat out told me, you've got to compliment the Democratic Party if you want to work here. You can't criticize them. You can criticize Republicans, you can criticize other people, but you can't criticize Democrats. I said no. And I came back here and I was hoping that, the members would support us enough to survive, and they did, and they still are. And so look, I'm lucky that I have you guys, and we're lucky that we have you guys because you allow us to be strong and independent. But everybody's got to make that choice at some point in their career if they're in politics or media. And unfortunately, 90% of them at least make the choice to take the money, fame, status, and title. And that's why you have all of the unbearable politicians that we have today in America.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.